Well, good morning, everyone. Welcome. My name is Marshall Snively. I'm the president of the Lancaster City Alliance. We are a nonprofit organization in the city of Lancaster, obviously, focusing on community and economic development. And I'm a proud co-chair of the Central Pennsylvania Council of the ULI. So I want to welcome you to A Tale of Three Cities. Three mayors shared their vision on urban growth and change in central PA. We're excited to have the mayors from York, Harrisburg, and Lancaster with us today to give us an overview of their visions, their strategic plans, challenges, and highlights of their respective cities. If you're unfamiliar with ULI, we're the oldest and largest network of cross-disciplinary real estate and land use experts in the entire world. Ooh. As ULI members in the Philadelphia District Council, which includes Central Pennsylvania, the Lehigh Valley, the state of Delaware, and Southern New Jersey, we're here to deliver the mission, shape the future of the industry, and create thriving communities here in our region. Our councils and committees are all member-driven. This is the commercial part, people. Are all member-driven, including our regional Central Pennsylvania Council, which meets regularly to tour projects and discuss real estate projects, work with public agency partners to identify needs for ULI advisory services, and we put together educational programs like today's. We welcome you to join us. If you're not a member, please consider that. You can feel free to come talk to me or ULI staff. ULI staff, raise your hands. Before we get started, I'd also like to thank our sponsors. We can't do what we do without our great sponsors. So help me in thanking BNF Properties, Harristown Development Corporation, the High Real Estate Group, and Maori Construction. Our programs like today's panel are not possible without their support. So how about this venue? Before we start the program, I wanted to say a few words about the Gamut Theater. The Gamut Theater is a combined company of Popcorn Hat Players Children's Theater and the Harrisburg Shakespeare Company, whose mission is to tell classic stories in new and exciting ways for the entertainment and enlightenment of both children and adults. In partnership with Harristown Development Corporation, Gamut purchased this former First Church of God, this historic building, no longer in use then, and embarked on a $2 million capital campaign to renovate the space. In November of 2015, they unveiled the beautiful Select Medical Main Stage, which is where we're sitting today. So thank you to the Gamut Theater for providing us with this beautiful space today. Thank you, Gamut. I mean, this is a great example of adaptive reuse, especially in a time when we're seeing churches close and consolidate. This is something that ULI and this chapter, or this satellite council, will be talking more about in the future. So again, another reason to participate and join the group. So with that said, I would like to introduce our moderator for this morning, Jeremy Jenkins. Jeremy joined the WGAL News 8 team in October of 2018. Originally from Arkansas, Jeremy is excited to have made the Susquehanna Valley his new home. Prior to his move to the Northeast, he was a multimedia journalist for KETK in Tyler, Texas. Outside of the newsroom, Jeremy has been honored for his work as a community advocate. In 2018, he was chosen as a nominee for Favorite News Personality for the Masulians' annual Masula Choice Award. He's also an award-winning fundraiser for Susan G. Komen's Race for the Cure. So please help me in welcoming our moderator, Jeremy Jenkins, to the stage. Jeremy.
I guess I was just a little too eager to get up here this morning. Thank you so much, everyone. My name is Jeremy Jenkins, and I'm the newest reporter with WGAL News 8. And what you guys can expect this morning is a presentation from all three mayors here of their newest developments that's happening throughout their respective cities. Now, there will be Q&A at the end for the audience if you have any questions, but I'd like to start by introducing our first speaker. Our first speaker is our host mayor today, Mayor Eric Pappenfuss. He took oath of office for his second term as the mayor of the city of Harrisburg on January 2nd, 2018. He was elected mayor of the city of Harrisburg in 2014 on the platform of uniting the residents of Harrisburg to work toward the common goal of building a better community. Through attracting business and investment, improving education, and restoring pride and prosperity to the state capital, with the motto, "Together we can." Pappenfuss inspired thousands of people to place their confidence in him to lead the city's revival. Please welcome to the stage Mayor Eric Pappenbus.
All right. Good morning, everyone. Thank you to ULI. Thank you to Gamut Theater. This really is one of our treasures here in the city of Harrisburg. A great example of adaptive reuse has already been said, and wonderful place you'll have to all come back and take in a play. I have prepared 10 slides to highlight 10 different projects that are currently underway in Harrisburg. I could have chosen others, so I didn't mean to leave anything out, but we'll use them as sort of a springboard to talk about some of the exciting things that are happening here. Probably the most exciting of which is we have on the horizon about $1 billion in investment already slated and planned for the city of Harrisburg over the next decade. And these projects here represent about 2/3 of it, and there's more to come. It's been a remarkable recovery for the city, as many of you know. When I took office only 5 years ago, we were still in receivership. We had been unable to pay our bills. We defaulted on our general obligation debt. We've come all the way back, and we are actually scheduled this summer to leave Act 47, which is the state program for distressed municipalities, and to start a whole new chapter. And with that progress that's been made over the past 5 years, we've seen confidence return to the marketplace, and we've seen people willing to step up and make investments in Harrisburg that we're anxious about doing that before. So, yeah, I'm going to try the clicker. Oh, there I am. Sorry, I should have put that up sooner. Okay, top 10 construction projects. Here we go. We're going to start with a small one, but one that I think is a little bit of a gateway. If anyone came into the city of Harrisburg this morning on 2nd Street, you may have noticed this structure. It's right before you get to the hospital. It's right there on Washington Street. It's part of our Shipoke neighborhood. And this represents basically a adaptive reuse of a building that has been vacant now for at least 30 years. It used to be a family restaurant, and it is going to be converted into 8 market rate apartments. I wanted to start with this one in part because it represents an abandoned structure which is being reclaimed, and that represents a real development here in Harrisburg. There are very few abandoned structures left in our downtown. If you walk around, you'll see a few left, and even those are all slated at the moment for various projects. But this one's underway as we speak. And it's a good place to start because when I first came to Harrisburg with my wife and in the 90s, it was fighting to sort of preserve this building that got us first involved in politics. I went to my first public meeting over this building, went to a zoning hearing board, and I was surprised to sort of see how it all worked, but went to a rally to help save it. There was talk about demolishing the building and turning it into a service parking garage, and actually some of the buildings nearby were demolished and are unfortunately still a gravel lot, but this building was kept, and it is currently being renovated into apartments. Then, if you go a little further down 2nd Street, and I thought it was appropriate to start with 2 projects that are both being done by Harristown. They're our sponsors this morning, and they're doing wonderful work in the city. There's another project which, unlike the adaptive reuse of the first slide, is really an example of new construction, new infill construction. And you'll see that there was a blighted, abandoned structure there that has been demolished. It's right next to a historic law firm building that's one of the older buildings in the city of Harrisburg. And it's a very interesting $10 million project which is basically taking the existing building, adding onto it, infilling the empty lot, and creating a wonderful new mixed office, retail, commercial development. So the first one was residential, this one is commercial. They're both good examples of how projects, I think, are being inspired by our LRTA in the city of Harrisburg, which is essentially an ordinance that we passed for tax abatement. And I was asked about this already this morning, so I'll just take a moment and explain it. But it was important in the city of Harrisburg that we wanted to sort of jumpstart development as we were coming out of the doldrums of our financial recovery by basically saying, if you invest in the city of Harrisburg, we're not going to tax you on that investment for up to 10 years. So no matter how much money you spend on renovating a building or building a new construction, you can get up to a 10-year, 100% tax abatement in the city. And a lot of different projects are taking advantage of that, and it's a good thing. It's a little different for adaptive reuse versus new construction. For adaptive reuse, it's pretty much no strings attached, 10 years, 100%. We want to encourage that as much as possible. New construction, it starts at 50% and it can go up to 100% depending on how many jobs are created, how many new people will be moving into this office space, and it's a pretty interesting ordinance, first of its kind in Pennsylvania with the various levels and components that we put in. Moving along. Number 8, this project is very much underway in Harrisburg, and it is the development of a new Salvation Army regional headquarters, a $12 million project under construction right now. And it's really an example of development outside of the downtown. Many of these are. Sometimes there can be a perception, I'm sure you hear this in York and in Lancaster as well, that what are we doing? What are you doing for the neighborhoods? Who's taking the lead in investing outside of the downtown core? And this is an example of a project that we think will have a great positive effect. It's basically in the outermost regions of Harrisburg, near 29th Street, in what used to be pretty much an abandoned parking lot for a series of old commercial structures that had closed long ago. All being redone, and is going to include such amenities as walking trails, basketball courts, park area, and all the services which Salvation Army has to offer. It's also very positive for the city because it's going to free up their existing building. They had one that is located in Midtown Harrisburg, sort of landlocked and unable to expand and not as close to the communities which they hope to serve. So that building will free up, and I'm sure you'll see a slide in a future presentation about the adaptive reuse of that building. Also a good example of partnerships. This one could not have been done without state funding, county funding, city funding. We use CDBG dollars and other things to help make the Salvation Army project happen. Number 7, coming back downtown, wanted to talk a little bit about, and there are a lot of projects like this happening. One of the things that you see in Harrisburg is you are starting to see the renovation of older office stock into residential apartments. A good example of this is happening on Pine Street. It's a $12 million project underway as we speak, and it really exemplifies the desire that currently exists in the marketplace for especially young professionals to want to move into the city and live closer to where they want to work. We are starting to see, and I'm very proud about this, for the first time in 70 years, our sort of population growth begin again. We for every census for the last 70 years, Harrisburg's population has declined. We're about half of where we were in 1950. That's not that surprising due to suburbanization and many other factors. But now we're starting to reverse that. We're starting to see, and we know this from tax revenues and other means of counting people that are interested in living downtown. There's also been a variety of housing studies showing this demand. And so slowly but surely, you're taking older office buildings and turning them into market rate apartments. I won't talk this morning, but maybe in the Q&A, about a couple other initiatives the city has which are a part of this. One, we have a vision called Vision Zero, which is about taking our streets and turning them into a sort of pedestrian-focused, neighborhood-focused transportation network, as opposed to an auto-centric transportation network, which is one of the things which happened in the 1950s, which sort of led to this population decline as you created these thoroughfares on State Street and 2nd Street that were basically encouraged people to get out of the city as quickly as possible. You also cut through neighborhoods. You made it harder for and less safe for people to live in the city. We're reversing that. We are encouraging bike routes, and we've got a lot of interesting designs for the city which are very much underway. All right. let's talk a moment about the transportation center, because we are right here downtown. And if you had come to Harrisburg 2 years ago, and I'm sure you did, you would have noticed a landscape that was much different than what it is now. Governor Wolf promised an investment in the actual transportation center itself. That's what we're talking about there. New systems and new roof and new expansion and development within it. But what has happened is we've seen what they call transportation-oriented development, or an approach to the entire area around the train station. That has led into the neighborhoods. If you go over the Mulberry Street Bridge, which is the bridge right there next to the train station that goes into Allison Hill, you'll see the most remarkable transformation that the city has seen in a long time, which is we took several blocks of blighted and abandoned properties and put new infill construction of affordable housing in 3 different units. They're really beautiful. They've been completed. They didn't make the list because the project is now done and is leasing, and these other projects are just beginning and underway. But that wouldn't have happened without an investment in the train station. And then on the other side of the train station, in the downtown, where the old Patriot News building used to be, if you take a short walk from here, you'll see that that building is now rubble. The site is been cleared, and PSERS, the State Employee Retirement System, purchased the building and has plans to develop that into additional expansion space for themselves and mixed-use development. It's really quite exciting. All of this also is happening within the context of a larger project in Harrisburg, which is a multi-million-dollar project just underway, to basically take our Paxton Creek watershed, which is a creek that basically runs along the Cameron Street corridor in the city and then eventually empties out into the Susquehanna River. And it's really that creek that floods on a regular basis, even more so than the Susquehanna. The Susquehanna only floods occasionally and very dramatically, but the creek floods when you get heavy rain on a regular basis. And we believe that if we can remove several obstructions along the creek and dechannelize certain aspects of it and remove a few structures, we can create a more natural flood pathway that will take over 100 acres of city downtown land out of the floodplain, thereby making that area much more valuable, much more able to be developed than it currently is now. And that is tied into the transportation center development, because it was really PennDOT that sort of took the lead in that project and helped did some of the engineering initial surveys for the Paxton Creek project. So hopefully you'll hear more about that to come. Moving to number 5. We have a new State Archives building under construction in the city of Harrisburg. This is a wonderful story because, and it's also a credit to the Wolf administration, because prior to my taking office, or just after I took office, but before Governor Wolf was elected, the state had decided to just move the archives out of the city of Harrisburg. It was going to go to a suburban office development out in the suburbs. And the Wolf administration happily reversed course, expressed a renewed desire to not only keep existing agencies within the city, but also within the urban core, but also to encourage others that were outside to move back in. So there's currently an RFP right now for state workers that are located in Susquehanna Township at the old state hospital grounds to look for potential new office space within the city of Harrisburg. And I know we've got some very strong applications for that, one of which is a proposal from the Bartan Group, which is very close to the State Archives buildings, but there are also others in various corridors of the city. So it really symbolically represents a reinvestment on the Commonwealth's part in the urban core of Harrisburg. And that's a $50 million project. Also has neat implications because they are going to take over the city archives as part of an MOU with the Commonwealth. We had all sorts of records, obviously, dating back hundreds of years, and we're going to put them on deposit in the state archives and make them available for researchers, which is not something that we really have the capacity to do as a city, but which we will be able to do with the new state archives building. And then, carrying on with that theme of the Commonwealth reinvesting in the downtown, The project, probably the most important project that I'm not sure people know anything about because you can't visually see it, is the renovation that is going on within the Forum building. They're taking, and I don't know the exact square footage, but I think it's about, I want to say 200,000 square. It's absolutely huge. All of the upper floors of that building, you all know the Forum because you go there, but and you probably know the State Library. You may know the State Library, which is on the first floor and sort of in the basement of that building. But all the upper floors, and it's right outside. If you walk outside and look at it, are currently empty and have been empty for years. The Commonwealth is investing $80 million into renovating that so that can then draw even more workers downtown, and with more workers, you can have more parkers and all of those good things that will come with it. Number 3, and I'm sure that you have heard about this, but it is also happening right close to where we are now, and that is the brand new office tower for Harrisburg University, which has gone through the permitting process and is about to break ground here this summer. It's not really the completion date. The completion date is August 2021, but the start date is going to be sometime this summer. One of the great success stories that Harrisburg has had over the past 5 years has been the development of that university. When I took office, here's the best statistic you'll hear all day. It had 4 graduate students, and 5 years later it has 4,000 graduate students. And that is just a part of what they do. They brought in students really from all over the world. A lot of them are now living in the downtown center, and they're looking to expand into the sort of health sciences, and that's why, which has a wonderful connection with UPMC Pinnacle and the corridor there on Chestnut Street. So it's going to be a combination of nursing school and also a new hotel to help deal with that aspect of the downtown. We have several hotels in the downtown that are constantly booked, and this will give us even greater capacity. Moving on to number 2, and I promised this to Capital Region Water, is all the investment that our water authority is doing in the city of Harrisburg. As many of you know, and as other cities have, we have a combined water sewer system, and one of the mandates we have is that we want to reduce the overflow that goes into the Susquehanna River and can pollute the Susquehanna River and ultimately the Chesapeake Bay. In order to do that, we're doing a lot of exciting green infrastructure projects throughout the city, and the city and the Water Authority have cooperated on many of those. Just to highlight a couple that I think are a part of this, we're talking about renovating or revitalizing a city. Well, one of the ways you do that is by revitalizing your public spaces, and in this case, our playgrounds. And we've got a wonderful partnership with Capital Region Water, where already over the past 2 years, we've completely renovated and redone 5 of our neighborhood playgrounds in different corridors of the city. And we've put in new aspects of green infrastructure, where there are basketball courts. It's now a permeable pavement. There's new trees. There's new other water infiltration aspects to these, which really lead to better stormwater management. And at the same time, we're doing that in our playgrounds from a transportation standpoint, and as part of our Vision Zero, we have been adding green infrastructure to our paving projects. So if you look out at 3rd Street in the downtown, you'll see that's under construction. We're repaving it. In various blocks of the city, we've created bump outs at corners, which basically allow there to be less space for people to have to cross, but also presents us with wonderful opportunities for new plants and green infrastructure, and that's all integrated in the city's development. And then finally, we have a new federal courthouse coming to the city of Harrisburg, and that's an almost $200 million project. It is also on the same corridor, the 6th Street corridor, which is basically in the Midtown, Uptown area of the city. That represents a real triumph of community groups and city interests in sort of working with the federal government to find a location that would hopefully have a ripple effect and spur additional investment and additional development. So today we were only talking about the projects that are underway right now. This is quite a construction site if you are to drive by it. But soon we will hopefully see new apartment buildings, new mixed use, new commercial spaces, all in the area along that corridor as an outgrowth of what's happening with the courthouse and the archives. So my time is up. Thank you very much, and look forward to your questions.
Thank you so much, Mayor Pappenfuss. Let's give another round of applause to our host mayor today. It is always so great to see these projects throughout these cities, and so with that, I'd like to introduce our next speaker. Mayor Michael Ray Helfrich, was first elected to York City Council in 2011, and after a successful campaign, was re-elected again in 2015. He served as Vice President of Council from January to November 2016 until obtaining the presidency. Following the resignation of the seated council president, Michael Helfrich was elected mayor of York and took the oath of office on January 2nd, 2018. Since 2005, Michael also has served as the Lower Susquehanna River Keeper, a legal and political advocate to improve waterways in communities around central Pennsylvania and northern Maryland. Please welcome to the stage Mayor Michael Helfrich.
Thank you, Jeremy, and thank you, Marshall, for the introductions at the beginning, and of course to Mayor Pappenfuss for hosting us here. Thank you for bringing me and introducing me to this beautiful little theater, the Gamut Theater. Thank you to Gamut for hosting, and of course to ULI for bringing us all together here today. I want to start off by saying that my approach to the development of the city of York is really about getting to the social issues that are holding us all back. I think all of us can speak to this, the same thing, is that if we didn't have the crime issues, if people felt supported and were more successful, we wouldn't have to come up with ideas of attracting people to our cities. People would be flocking. We are all blessed. Lancaster, York, and Harrisburg, we are blessed together to be in a place where we can have kind of the coziness of our communities, but still be in that Baltimore, DC, Philly, New York area. So I'm going to talk a lot about the development projects that are going on, but really I wanted to point out that my real focus on development is about trying to get into the neighborhoods and address the social issues, stop... Sunday we had a 13-year-old shot. We got kids shooting kids in our neighborhoods, and if we fix those problems, it's going to be easy for all you to make lots of money on developing our cities. So I do want to thank you all because you're the ones that are really doing the work, and sometimes we mayors get to take some of the credit. I try not to do that. So I thank you all for the work that you do in our cities. So what I'm going to do, which I didn't look at this thing first, what I'm going to do is run through a set of projects. Well, first I want to talk about the larger strategy. My strategy, other than helping lift everybody up from where they are, is to make sure that we have a 21st century vision. York, if you know York, we've been living in Victorian land for a long time, if I may say. And that's wonderful for architecture. It's wonderful. We have the university professors from Georgetown come up to look at our architecture, which is awesome. And we love the reuse. Royal Square is doing a great job, and they're on here probably more than anybody else for the reuse of our Victorian architecture. But we also have to get into the 21st century. And so we're certainly going to close out with some projects that we have that are moving us forward. So my real strategy is to work to build us into the or to take advantage of our heritage, which was to be a world-leading manufacturing city, and take us into 21st century technology manufacturing city. So with that, let's run through some projects. Hopefully this won't be a whiplash tour here, but I've got a lot of them on here. Let's see. So we'll start with here. May I take this off of here? I feel really uncomfortable with my back to half the people. Oh, I guess I can. I can do it a little bit. All right, we'll start with the northern entrance to our city coming down North George Street. The York Academy is an international baccalaureate school, that is on the site of a sanitary, or the sanitary milk factory. It was a milk company for 150 years, but then sat vacant for decades. So this is a beautiful, incredible new entranceway to our city. We have the One West project. This is formerly the Bears department store. How many department stores? You don't have as many department stores downtown. You've got the department stores, but yeah, we've got these giant boxes. What do we do with these giant boxes now that, since the 50s and 60s, we were left with these things because of the mall? So this is an incredible redevelopment. Most recently, it had been the third floor, it was city offices. Fourth floor was county offices. That's not the thing you want in your square. You want activity, you want good stuff. And so we've got these apartments sold out in days. So, and we got a new cute little restaurant on the bottom, very nice. Keystone Color Works is a building. We've got a lot of these buildings that are, this is probably one of the oddest ones because it's a triangular building. What do you do with a triangular building? But they were able to take this in our Northwest Triangle area and create very high, these again, the market for rentals is just really skyrocketing. Where's Dylan? He's around here somewhere. Am I right? Almost everything is just getting taken up right away. So these guys did a great job on repurposing an 1880s paint manufacturing building right in the downtown. There we go. This is one of my favorites because I'm a historian. I love the 1700s and 1800s aspects of the city of York. This was the City Hotel on the 300 block of West Market Street. And when they used to drive the cattle into the city, the west side of the city is where they collected all the cattle, and the City Hotel was one of the hotels that was there, going even into the late 1800s. And this place, unfortunately, had really the worst reputation and the worst reality in our western downtown. So RSDC just did a great job. I think a $3 million investment, to a lot more of an investment than you thought going in, right? But we, the City of York, absolutely thank you. Thank you for this. This is a great job. And it even extended the reach of our downtown. I wish I had some more before and afters on here. But here's one great before and after. This is also an RSDC development. The entire south side of the first block, the unit block of West Market Street, has been barren or virtually barren for 20 years, since Woolworth, Bon-Ton, Bears, Jack's, all these big stores moved out. And Royal Square has done a great job at RSDC going back and creating market rate apartments, building up higher. The Wellspan has brought a pharmacy down into the downtown so people have access. Just really great redevelopment. Okay, so those are some big successes. I'm working you up here. I'm showing you what is possible. Then I'm going to show you what we're doing. Then I'm going to show you, and then I'm going to throw the meat out on there so that you can fight for the redevelopment of what we're working on right now. So what we've got in progress, Keystone KIDSPACE. This is another one. What do you do with an old Army Reserve armory? Well, these folks had a great creative idea to build a space that's going to inspire the next generations of kids, of creatives. And luckily for us, as with Mayor Papenfuss, Governor Wolf is keeping an eye on his town. And we were able to get some money in there. And that's going to be coming, let me see, do I have notes on that? It's coming soon. Is it next summer? Okay. All right, great, thank you. I forgot, I did have notes. I'm not good at notes. So this is, and that's right across from the new high school academy there that I showed you on the first slide. So you took really an abandoned, horrible looking abandoned old milk factory on the right side, and a virtually abandoned armory on the left side with rusty fences and things like that. And now we have this gateway. It really is incredible. Yorktown Hotel. All of us are knocking on wood and crossing our fingers as we try to revive this monument within York. I mean, there's so much has gone on here. The presidents, musicians, athletes, all these folks, and we're putting everything we have into. And again, Harrisburg is helping us. Well, the state capital, not Mayor Pat Withers. But they're helping us bring back and slim down and turn this into a Hilton Tapestry hotel for the downtown city. We can't have a city that doesn't have a hotel. We've got so many amenities that I can't even name right now with the new restaurants, the new stores and everything. But if you don't have a hotel where people can walk after having a meal, you don't have a city. So we're putting everything we can into the Yorktown Hotel. Citizens Bank building. Talk about what do you do with a building with 40-foot high ceilings or 50-foot high ceilings and murals on there? Nobody wants to make it a bank anymore. So there is an effort in progress right now to make this a music club, a music venue. So we're very excited to see how that works out. It's a little controversial because it's in the square, and you got people across the street that want to sleep. They're in the city, I don't know, but it works in Lancaster, right? And, right now I go to Tellus, I go to Altana. Those are two awesome little clubs right in your square, and I don't know. We can talk about how many complaints you get, but people are really nervous. Some people that live close by are very nervous about this, but we're definitely excited to see what happens here. Back to RSDC. And speaking of ideas that we're trying to take from Lancaster, we also have the Rupp building. This building was built in 1892, and certainly the first few floors have been highly underutilized for decades. I don't know what's been going on in the upper floors. Nothing. It's been kind of one tenant in this giant, beautiful building here. But now we are getting the Prince Street Cafe, or at least, do you have a new name for it? Okay, we're York's Prince Street Cafe. Okay, Prince Street Cafe, York. As well as a new innovation co-working center, co-working artistic center that will be on the second floor there, called The Grotto. And to go back here a little bit, to the left on the first floor, let me see what he's got here. Okay. To the left on the first floor, we have a brand new company, a startup company. As I said, we're trying to get York rolling on 21st century technology. I could do a whole speech on the politics of the need for all of us to work together on 21st century technology. Check out China 2025 if you want to get into that kind of international politics. But I believe that we all need to work together right now to be building our 21st century technology. And I'm very excited, the company that we have that reused the York Dispatch building on North George Street. Sapio Sciences now has a spin-off company that they are starting called Velocity. They're going to be doing stuff that I don't understand. Stuff in the CRM world. So that company is moving in adjacent to the Rupp building. And then we have Benjamin and Bond, which across the street next to another building that didn't get up there where the Fig and Barrel is. That building is the saloon, most recently the saloon, but I can't remember the original. Huh? No, the Floor building, is that the Floor building? All right, I'm going back history, sorry, wasting your time. But Benjamin and Bond is an investment and innovation company that is developing out this basically abandoned bar building that is going to have space, community space, for folks to get together and have tech meetings, tech co-working work sessions and things like that. So these folks, I just have to thank them, because I can talk about visions all day, but I can't make them happen. I can go and learn about it. I'm going to leave here and go to the Tom Tom Innovation Festival in Charlottesville right after this. I can learn about everything. I don't have money to do it. I don't have investors to do it. So again, thank you guys for everything that you do. And wanted to point out how much they're doing for us. What do you do with a jail? What the heck do you do with a jail? Especially a really overpriced jail, but I won't get into that. But this is United Fiber and Data. They're working on a $60 million data system that is going to complement the fiber that they're running through central Pennsylvania. And they just got access to it, and the plans are running through the city of York right now. So we're really looking forward to this $60 million investment. And one of the most exciting things for me, as I've been watching this thing, not a huge fan of eminent domain, not a huge fan of the government taking spaces, but this happened back in the early 2000s, and as you can see, I mean, it didn't look a lot different when they took this space, but it's been sitting there now. We took all the things off all the properties off the tax rolls, and it was sitting there for 15 years. So we finally have a real solid plan. We believe that the developer does have the wherewithal to put together a $140 million project, a new innovation hub. This is going to be the hallmark, the symbol of our entrance into the 21st century in York City. So I was sitting there kind of drooling over Mayor Papenfuss's buildings that are popping up next to the, still having that, a little bit of the colonial Victorian, couple of little buildings there right next to the, 14 stories, something like that. We've got to be able, and Lancaster does an amazing job, I always say, with having your historic buildings right next to something modern. There's no reason that we can't do that. And again, while I'm a historian, I want to see 21st century with 18th century, right next to 18th century. I don't think there's any harm in that myself. So this is very exciting, and this is really the symbol of our vision to bring us all into the 21st century. I'm going to stop for a second just to mention a couple other amenities that we've been working on to try and improve the quality of life in the area. The Cadorus Creek, as was mentioned, I was the Lower Susquehanna River keeper, and before that I was the president of the Cadorus Creek Improvement Partnership. The unfortunate former name for 100 years, the inky, stinky Cadorus Creek. Not a great moniker to have on your city, but we've been working to clean that up, and now again with the help of Governor Wolf, we're looking at doing a complete restoration of this federal flood control project, giving people access, improving the flow of the creek. Right along there you can also see the rail trail. That's our most popular amenity. Sorry, I hate this position. I'll put my back again. But our most popular amenity in York County, and now that is extended with except for these couple of blocks that are right on here, that is now extended the whole way from Hunt Valley, Maryland, to the end of the Cadorus Creek at Rudy Park. So it's an amazing rail trail if you like to ride or take your dogs for a walk. Speaking of, we're going to get the dog park right along the rail trail here very shortly. My chief of staff's daughter, who's just so cute, and I think she's 7 maybe, she's determined to have the dog park. So she's out there raising the funds that we need to get the dog park going. All right, here we go. I will take the highest bid. Elm Street Opportunity Zone. We worked so hard to get these opportunity zones in the city of York because I am convinced if the IRS ever figures out the regulations, we have a great opportunity, to really bring jobs back to the core of York City. York City was built around walkable jobs, and this is just one example, you know, the aerial, but you can tell, you can see all the warehouse buildings, right? And they go on and on. These are buildings that used to have 200 to 500 workers in them, and now they're warehouses with like 10 workers and 2 forklifts. You know, we have to reuse these buildings, and it's a great opportunity right there. The southeast rectangle, I don't know if you can see, but this is basically a scrap yard, a waste yard. We're not even sure what's going on that property. A junkyard, and this has direct access to Route 83, another incredible opportunity, probably other than the Northwest Triangle, the biggest kind of almost clean slate with some environmental cleanup that we have. Classic Caramel, this company supplied our troops since since World War I, and unfortunately we got the official announcement this week that they are going to be closing up, but I already knew that last year, so I put this in the opportunity zones too. So this is a whole strip down along the Cadorus Creek that includes the Ag and Industrial Museum on Princess Street. It includes all of Classic Caramel, all the block adjacent to the William Penn High School, and it goes the whole way around. Let's see, was it included? Oh, there's the Ag and Industrial Museum. Nope. Okay, Philip didn't include this one in here. It goes the whole way down to York College and the old Smurfit-Stone paper factory, where I believe they'll be expanding their innovation buildings there. Oh, I see the red card coming. United States Post Office, this building, another one. What do you do with an old giant, what is that, Greek, what is that, architects? What kind of architecture is that? I don't know. What is it? Okay, neoclassical architecture. It's a giant, big, open space that should be utilized for something like some kind of music venue or something, or I don't know what the heck you can do in there, but it's up for bid. It's open. I already said Ag and Industrial Museum, so we're ready for you to come to York. Thanks.
Let's give another round of applause for Mayor Helfrich for those updates for York. And each one of these developments, they're all one piece of the Susquehanna Valley. Even though they're separate cities, each one of these developments is just one piece to make the community a better place. And with that being said, I'd like to introduce another piece of that. I'd like to introduce our next speaker, which is going to be Mayor Deneen Sirachi. Sorry about that, you guys. I'm a little bad with notes myself here. Mayor Deneen Sirachi, in January 2018, Deneen Sirachi was elected to serve as Lancaster's 43rd mayor, the second woman to hold this post. With more than 20 years of nonprofit and philanthropy experience, she has a proven record of developing and implementing strategies to advance shared goals among public and private partners. A member of Lancaster City Council since 2014, she chaired the Finance Committee and championed progressive ordinances and policies. With that, I'd like to welcome to the stage Mayor Deneen Sirachi.
So I'm going to try to do this without the microphone because I like to move around on the stage, and then I'll be able to take you all in and not be tied to a podium. If at any point you can't hear me, please raise your hand, okay? Deal? All right. So I wanted to talk about two things. Lancaster Square, which is a case study in the evolution of the city landscape in downtown. And I also wanted to give you a little bit of an update about what's next. And so a snapshot regarding our strategic plan. So Lancaster Square, first up. How many of you are familiar with downtown Lancaster? You know the monument and sailors, the Soldiers and Sailors Monument right here in the middle of King and Queen. We have had a tremendous amount of investment in downtown Lancaster, really beginning with the convention center, the Marriott, the now new Marriott expansion that's been championed by High Industries and other partners, High Real Estate and other partners. We also have seen East King Street really ramp up. Mayor Helfrich mentioned about Telus and Altana. But we've also seen Fulton Bank expansion. We have been welcoming Cargis, which is a company that was headquartered in Lidditz for over 100 years, is now moving downtown. We've also seen a lot of interest from developers that weren't familiar with Lancaster, but are getting more and more familiar with Lancaster. And so one of them is Zamias, and I'm going to talk a little bit about Zamias' interest in Lancaster Square. But first, just to give you an orientation, Lancaster Square is just about 2 blocks north of the proper square. We call it Lancaster Square. We're going to change that name. It's really a rectangle, and I'm going to take you on a little walk down memory lane. So this is what the block of North Queen Street looked like in the 50s. And it was home to about 3 hotels, 4 theaters. This was the heart of our downtown commerce. And this is the corner of North Queen and East Chestnut. And I want you to just visually remember this because I'm going to show you the picture from today of what that intersection looks like. But we had the very unfortunate experience of going through urban renewal, which has affected Harrisburg, Lancaster, York, and many other communities across the country when we realized that through suburbanization, the mayor and the leadership of the city at that time thought, we need to make ourselves new. And so how do we do that? We level a whole block in the downtown of Lancaster City. And that's not the only place where they leveled the homes and businesses. The South Duke Street corridor is another place where urban renewal has left a scar on our city. So this is the construction of Hess's department store, one of those department stores. And it was under construction in 1971, only to close literally 3 years later with the onset of the Park City shopping mall. It became home to Hamilton Technology and then Boulevard Technologies in the subsequent years after its closure. This was the dedication of Lancaster Square in 1971, just 2 years prior to Hess's department store under construction. And Hess's department store is on the far end of this block. And so this is basically what no mayor wants to be remembered by, which is a project that took years and years in the making, only to fail literally within 24 months of opening. So, and there is this concrete superstructure that wrapped itself around this area that, well, it spoke to that architectural style of this era, but it didn't really connect in any ways, and it was very, very imposing. I remember as a kid going to the movies in the theater that was down here. It didn't last very long, the movie theater, but you walked in there and it was sort of like you were walking into like no man's land. Because what don't you see in this image? People. Okay, so this is the east side of Lancaster Square in 2010, and this is following the demolition of that concrete superstructure. So you can basically see right here is this area that is like a black mark, and it literally stayed that way for decades. This is the Hess department store. What don't you see in this building? Any windows. And so this is how the Boulevard building existed for decades in downtown Lancaster. This is basically that same corner that I pointed out to you that I wanted you to make a mental note about. That's what that corner has looked like for years. This is 101 North Queen under construction today. We are very fortunate to have a project that is going to have retail on the first floor, Cargus, which is a local employee-owned business moving in and taking up residence at their corporate headquarters on the second floor. And then upstairs, they are looking at condominiums. And this is going to anchor the total rebirth of what Lancaster Square is. So this is another vantage point from across the street of 101 North Queen under construction. And I just want to footnote that there have been, this is, as I mentioned, this is an outside developer that's coming into Lancaster. But how did that happen? It happened on the heels of long-time sustained investment and investor confidence for many of our local investors that made a lot of projects around downtown happen. And now subsequently, we have the fortune, of inviting and attracting different types of investors into Lancaster City. This is what it's going to look like when it's done. It's going to have windows, a lot of them. We are a little compare and contrast. So this is Cargus on the left. This is what it looked like up until, 2 years ago. That's basically the scene. And again, no people ever were in there. And if there were people in there, they weren't doing things that we were really wanting them to do. On the opposite side of the square is the Future Holiday Inn Lancaster, which is also under renovation. That's slated to go through a rebranding later this month. And they're on track to reopen all of the floors of that hotel, new ballroom space, new restaurant. The restaurant is the Imperial, which is claiming a space that was a dead space at the corner of a major intersection at Chestnut and North Queen. Part of the renovation, so the Holiday Inn is on the back side, is to include a new public library and a parking garage. And we're looking forward to giving our library a 21st century home. And that has been a project that has been in the works for a couple of years-ish. I would say that this is one of the things that was an opportunity when I came into office, was to put the brakes on just building a parking garage. How can we make this more, have a community benefit beyond a parking garage? And there was this great idea to add the library into the mix. And so that just will bring a different kind of foot traffic in and out of this corner of the Lancaster Square. We did have designs on having another movie theater. Unfortunately, that's not going to happen. But there are some other really interesting ideas at play that are not retail in that area, which I'm super excited about. And then this is what Lancaster Square is going to be. We've gone through a public art and community engagement process with Man Reichel to really think about how do we activate this space that has not been utilized in decades, and to think about how to make this a place where there are people from all walks of life who have business in this area. So it's not just for folks that are coming to work at Cargus, but this is for your public library. How do we make sure this space is intergenerational? Public library. How do we make sure that this place is welcoming to everyone? We create different kinds of opportunities for programming in this park. And this is another visual from above. Okay, so what's next for Lancaster? So this is the part where I'm going to talk a little bit about the strategic plan. I've had the really good fortune of coming into the city at a time where we have benefited tremendously from the leadership of my predecessor, Mayor Rick Gray, and the team that supported his objectives in moving the city forward. One of those folks is Randy Patterson. He's the Director of Economic Development and Neighborhood Revitalization. Yesterday, we were here at the governor's residence receiving an award in local government excellence for the project that I just showed you. And so I feel really fortunate to come in and to build on those successes. So what my task is how do we take this from beyond the downtown into our neighborhoods? And so I am focusing on building a stronger Lancaster block by block. We have 4 strategic priorities: strong neighborhoods, safe streets, secure income, and sound government. 3 of these individuals are residents. We have Valerie, who lives on Howard Avenue. We have Pedro, who lives on Christian Street. We have Ken, who lives on, oh my gosh, this street just left me. Union Street, thanks, Jeremy. And then we also have Ruth Hawker, who is our Stormwater Program Manager, talking about sound government. You can pick one of these up on your way out. You can read a little bit about each of these individuals, and also a link to our website, which is Lancaster Block by Block. We really wanted the strategic plan to be interesting. People really don't want to read a strategic plan. So we created some little video vignettes that describe what each of these strategic priorities are, and then made a website where you'll basically be able to track our progress in implementing the strategic plan over time. So I'm just going to quickly walk through these 4 strategic priorities with you. So we have a vision for each one: strong neighborhoods. Lancaster's diverse and vibrant neighborhoods are welcoming places that foster connections among our residents. Residents are actively engaged in the day-to-day life of their neighborhoods to create and sustain strong community. What are we doing? We hired a director of neighborhood engagement. This is a brand new position in the city of Lancaster to serve as an ombudsman between the residents' needs and what they need from the city. We've created an internal neighborhood working group because one of the things that I heard from our residents was, look, I need to talk to housing, I need to talk to trash and recycling, I need to talk to the police. Can you just get all these people together and can we work on this in a case management style? And so that's what we're doing. Externally, we're doing a ton of neighborhood organizing because here's the thing. Residents want to be engaged with the city. They just don't always know how. And they also, I'm working against a belief, an assumption in some of our neighborhoods that why bother to call the city because we're not going to do anything anyway. No, we are going to be showing up. We are going to be listening. And we are going to be working in partnership with them to see their goals realized. All of this is driven by data. We have had the fortune of hiring this woman who brought with her this data platform experience from this company called Ptolemy. And for an investment of $12,000, we can now get our data to talk to each other. So now we can look at code violations, we can look at police reports, we can look at the American Community Survey data on demographics, income levels, education levels. We're adding into the mix health data from LG so that we can start to look at where we are literally creating a profile of health of our neighborhoods so we can direct investment into specific areas of the city that we know need some love. That's all driven by data so that we can make the case to both external funders as well as our taxpayers about why we should be investing in these areas. And then finally, we've one of 10 cities across the country, keeping company with Buffalo, Newark, and others to receive a Cities of Service Award. That came with a financial commitment that we've leveraged with the High Foundation and others, as well as 2 vistas. So we have 2 full-time staff that are working on this project as well. All right, safe streets. Lancaster has safe, walkable, and accessible streets for all. City streets foster connectedness with others and one's own surroundings, promoting a sense of well-being that is a cornerstone of our neighborhoods. Similar to your help me. Vision Zero, thank you. This is our effort to really focus on how do we build connections in our corridors, slowing cars down, making more pedestrian friendly, and really amping up our bike infrastructure. We have an active transportation plan. We're very fortunate to have this plan be developed in conjunction with the county and the LIMC, the surrounding suburbs, to put together a plan that makes connections throughout the county. We have an internal working group that's between Public Works and our Police Bureau, focusing on both the enforcement aspects as well as the engineering aspects to look at our crash data. Like, we actually know where we have intersections where there's a lot of car-car conflict or car-pedestrian conflict. So what are we doing about that? Also, we're ramping up targeted enforcement because, hey, you know what? Everybody needs a little reminder to slow down, 25 miles an hour. We'll get to the radar advocacy in a minute. To learn how to cross the street safely. Yes, we need to be telling pedestrians, yes, you don't cross in the middle of the block. And also bicycles. Hey, you have to follow the same laws the cars do. So we're also looking at artful intersections. We're really excited about our public art department and some of the new strategies that they have on deck to elevate the visibility of our intersections using public art. And then radar advocacy. This is like time eternal. We've been trying to not be the only state in the country that doesn't allow for our municipal law enforcement to use radar. Radar is a tool that you can slow people down by giving them a disincentive to speed, which is a speeding ticket. And so for longer than I have been alive, this has been a perpetual issue in our state legislature. And we think maybe this year, we might be able to get to a bill to the floor of the House. The Senate agrees. It got out of the House Transportation Committee last year. This is necessary for our children and our elderly and everybody else who walks around Lancaster to know that there are some tools in the toolbox to slow cars down. Third, secure incomes. The foundation of a strong city is household sustaining employment. Partnerships among Lancaster's businesses, educational institutions, and nonprofits provide every resident access to one good job. One Good Job is a carryover from my predecessor, the Mayor's Commission to Combat Poverty. The report is entitled One Good Job. What do we know? We know that for Lancaster to continue to be sustainable, we can't have 30% of our population living in poverty. It's not going to work for us long term. So how are we moving the needle on poverty? Well, we're looking at how we do poverty reduction and business for good. We have a lot of employers in our county who are desperate for workers. 8,000 to 10,000 vacancies in Lancaster County on a monthly basis. And we have this stubborn poverty rate in the city of Lancaster when we know where people are working. They're working poor, so they're underemployed. And so how are we moving them into jobs that have family-sustaining wages? Well, one of the ways that we're doing is with a transportation pilot, with literally providing van services to connect people who live in the city to jobs that are in the northeastern corridor. And those jobs are at Four Seasons and High Concrete. And they've invested in this pilot, along with many others, really spearheaded by our Chamber of Commerce, to do something practical, which is like actually provide a way for people to get to work. Because for a lot of these areas in the county, you might be able to get there on a bus, but you won't be able to get home, or it's going to take you upwards of 45 minutes or an hour and a half for what should legitimately be a 20-minute commute. Think about the time that people who are trying to get ahead spend just trying to get to their job. This is something that we can really tackle. So we're going to continue with the more learning and more doing. I'm really pleased we've been partnering with the Center for Regional Analysis, really taking a look at the quality of the jobs that are in our area. We know that a third of those jobs are deemed low quality, low wages, not 40 hours a week, not very prestigious. And how are we going to understand and address that is an important part of our sector in terms of hospitality, in terms of manufacturing. But we also know that there are public resources that go into sustaining that, and it's keeping people in this static state of forever being in the cycle of living paycheck to paycheck. Okay, last but not least, sound government. The city's leaders are approachable, responsive, and always working to make the city a better place. Human and financial resources are put to their best use, and competing interests are balanced through public dialogue. So we just had a public dialogue about a building in downtown Lancaster related to the historic preservationists and housing density. These are the kinds of conversations that we need to continue to have as it relates to sound government. And it's why I'm really excited about the hire of a community planning and economic development director. We need to be having and thinking about, as a community, how do we do infill? How do we do density? Where are the areas in our city where these kinds of projects can happen, so that we are guiding and providing some direction to developers who want to come into the city and do projects, but they also have to recognize that we are a historical city and we love our historic architecture. And so how do we make these things fit together? We've obviously done strategic planning, we're doing a communications overhaul, a lot of infrastructure investments. I mean, the list is endless, and I'm sure it is for my colleague mayors, in terms of the kinds of infrastructure that we need to be investing in. We're going to be building 2 new fire stations in the coming year. We're rolling out new body cameras, which is just getting underway right now. And our 10-year time frame for LERTA is up. So we are renegotiating what LERTA will be. How are we using this as a tool to encourage more residential construction, especially with affordable elements to it? How are we using this to direct investment in different areas of the city? We don't want our southeast and southwest neighborhoods to be the only place where we do affordable housing. Okay, and that's it. Block by block, Lancaster, that's what we're working on. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Mayor Sirachi. At this time, I'd like to invite all the mayors back on stage, and we will get started with the audience Q&A portion of the program. Alrighty, well everyone, if you have questions, we will get started with the Q&A part. Make sure you get your loud voices going here. If you've got questions, just raise your hand and I will call on you and we will get each mayor their question. Any questions? Yes, ma'am.
How much conversation do you guys have with each other?
Not enough.
Yeah, we were just talking about that. So I'm 14 months in. Mayor Halfrick is 14 months in. This is our senior mayor. So we have a lot to learn in terms of experience. One of the things about the job that is really challenging is making space to have these kinds of conversations. And yet all of us really realize the importance of regionally, because, you know, we are not walled cities, and our economics of this region directly affect the success of our respective cities, and so how can we continue to do that? So we're making a plan.
Because some of the problems are the same.
Oh, they're all, almost all. And literally, I have had the fortune of going to the U.S. Conference of Mayors. It doesn't really matter the size of the city. It's a lot of the same things that are happening.
So we just mentioned before the program that we were going to get together and, in my words, steal from each other.
Yeah.
To take the best that we know, because we're all addressing our problems and we all have unique approaches. So yeah, the blend is probably the best.
Yeah, and I'll say that our staffs get together, I think, on a regular basis. We're constantly in communication, and whether we're currently looking at inclusionary zoning. I know we've reached out to both York and Lancaster in terms of having participants for an upcoming workshop that we're doing. So while we should get together more and will, it is true that our various teams are constantly looking to one another for good examples.
Yes, sir.
You each talk about how education affects your jobs and how you're trying to do your job in the city.
Well, yes, I'm happy to start with that. We have a situation in Harrisburg where we have a dysfunctional and very poorly performing school district, and I am having to spend a lot of my time advocating with the Commonwealth to basically do more. I've also been in a position where I've actively supported charter schools in the city of Harrisburg. I'm sure we've had a good conversation with what's happening in York and elsewhere, but in Harrisburg we've got a significant problem, because unless we can improve our educational system, we are going to see that a lot of these gains we're making in terms of population growth are going to reverse over time as some of these young professionals look to have families and move back out to the suburbs. So it is absolutely key to everything that we're doing. We see those recoveries connected. And at least in Harrisburg, we have a history of receivership with the city that has worked very well. And I'd basically like to see the Department of Education be doing more to ensure that that happens.
We have time for another question.
Oh wait, I got an answer to that one too.
Oh,
Yes.
I have the opposite answer. So, and that is, our issue is not with the school district, our issue is with the children and what they are able to do because of living in the trauma-filled life that they have and the environment that they're living in. We have 60% of the 4-year-olds that are trying to go into kindergarten aren't meeting the benchmarks to go into kindergarten. 60%. That is not a school district problem, that is a community problem, which is why we are working to get into the communities with the young moms, with these young kids. You know, a 4-year-old that, and I apologize for those that have heard this before, but it's the truth and you can't change it. A 4-year-old that isn't meeting the benchmarks to get into kindergarten is a 6-year-old that has to take home a piece of paper that says, I'm not good enough. That is then an 8-year-old that is frustrated, that is then a 10-year-old that is angry, that is a 12-year-old that finds a different family waiting for them on the streets. And sorry for the little kind of, I don't know what to call it, but they're there with open arms, and those arms are Glocks, 45s, and 38s, and they're shooting up my city. And it's because before 4 years old, they're not getting what they need. So I'm not willing to put it on teachers or administrators or anything like that. These are deep-rooted social problems that we have to fix in our cities.
And if I could just add to that, so I'm a proud School District of Lancaster parent. My daughter is at Reynolds Middle School. We've been in the School District of Lancaster education system since she started in kindergarten. What I can say is that when I think about building a stronger Lancaster block by block, and I think about not just the physical assets that we have, but also the people assets, and children who are coming to school similarly unable to learn. What is the problem? And one of the problems is lead. And we have to get lead out of our homes and out of our communities. I'm really heartened by Governor Wolf at least has this as part of the Restore Pennsylvania. Now, whether or not that can actually get funded is another story. But we've rededicated resources, hired a second lead inspector. We have HUD funding. It's not enough. We quite frankly are content to let this problem continue, and we've known about it for decades, and it has to change, because in order for our children to have the capability to learn, they must not have elevated blood levels that are 5 times what the CDC, 15 times, 5 times, any amount of blood, elevated blood in the system, it doesn't go away. And so that's really what I believe is the root cause of many of the issues in urban education.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I appreciate each of your personalities. You're really unique and gifted for what you do. But you're all the mayors of your county seat, the cities of our county. So turn the lens around. As a mayor, what do you expect out of the county that surrounds you to help you, to help solve some of the problems that we addressed? What do you expect out of the county that surrounds you? Because as the county goes, so go you, and vice versa.
Can you clarify between what do we wish we had and what do we expect to get?
Well, the problem.
It's 2 different questions.
Many folks here know my issue oftentimes is affordable housing.
Yes.
Oftentimes, it's our primary cities that solve that problem. Unfortunately, it shouldn't be that way. So I guess, what are supportive land uses? What are supportive programming? I know, Denise, you've done a great deal of getting people from the city of Lancaster out to our boroughs where their employment opportunities are. Those kind of things. I'm not sure that helps clarify things,
Yeah.
but it's more open-ended.
Well, I can answer that just in a recent situation, which had to do with water infrastructure and putting in a water tower in an area that is a designated urban growth boundary, and the intermunicipal challenge of doing that. And so it would be helpful to have the county say, you know what, this 2040 plan that we just spent years making is really about directing investment in these urban growth areas, and we have to have the infrastructure there to support it. This is a challenge that EDC and Lisa Riggs, has been working on as well. Like, we don't have that much space left, and how we utilize that space is very important. And so having the county weigh in on that. Here's another thing. Let's see if the county could make a payment in lieu of taxes. If they made a payment in lieu of taxes, I would pledge today to use that to support building affordable housing in the city of Lancaster, and it would probably add like about 60 units a year. Just that. So that's a couple of things.
That's a short list.
Those are good suggestions. I suggested that when I took office. It didn't go over very well.
Yeah, I don't know. But this is
Yeah.
where we need people outside of our cities to say, you know what, as the city goes, so do we. We're all in this together. So don't just point at us and say, that's where all this can, I'll be happy to take more affordable housing. You know what, because in Salisbury Township, their township supervisors voted it down. But they did give
I
them the
know.
tax incentive for Urban Outfitters to come and pay those folks $10 an hour. No.
A couple interesting things about Harrisburg. If you think about one county relationship, we actually have a divide. The Susquehanna River, of course, acts as something to divide between the east and the west shore here, and we have Cumberland County and Dauphin County, as well as the city. We work together on a board for public transportation for our CAP. And oftentimes, not only are we struggling to sort of bring better synergy between the city and Dauphin County, but the divide between the city and Cumberland County is even greater. And so we've got multiple county governance here, which requires sort of constant communication. We want to do wonderful things like build a new walking trail, renovate a bridge that goes across the river, and we have a West Shore which really doesn't want anybody from Harrisburg coming over. And it's true. When it comes to Dauphin County, we are the county seat. I think that's important, and there's certainly a lot more that could be done. One interesting place in which we are working together is that as part of the city's recovery plan, we privatized our parking assets, and actually the county stepped up and guaranteed those bonds because the city wasn't in a position to do that, and is essentially the guarantor of our parking system, and therefore very much invested in the success of the types of development that we're seeing here. And we're working together on various innovative partnerships, such as before City Council right now, an effort to make parking free from 5 to 7 in the downtown and other things like that. But the county is also in Harrisburg. It's the source of the gaming revenues that come in. It's the source of the hotel tax revenues that come in for tourism and other types of development. So there's a need for even greater collaboration and partnership that exists. That's something we work towards every day.
So if county residents and county representatives are happy with the status quo of concentrating all of the poverty, all of the services and nonprofits, such that 37% of our property does not pay taxes, if they are satisfied with that, then they should support, first of all, either electing people that will support eliminating the school property taxes, and funding that through either income taxes or the sales tax. That would be a good place to start. But the entire system, I mean, can we throw it out? Can we get rid of the municipal system? We'll start there. If you're going to concentrate all of your, all of the needs for those that need the most in the city, and send people into the city and say, go get your help there, or even go get your drug rehab there. We've got some of the highest populations of drug recovery houses in ours. Everything, go to the city if you don't have anything. That's the mentality. And if we are going to be that service center for everybody, then everybody should be paying into this. I don't care what the formula is, or what level it happens, but it is an absolutely ridiculous situation. And we get blamed for the violence and the poverty and things like that, and our taxes. But it's because we're taking care of everybody that has the needs.
We have time for another question. Yes, sir?
Question for Mayor Sinachi. What's the plan with the old hospital?
to make a plan. Yeah, I mean, the hospital closed the end of February. We're really eager to see some action there. The last thing that the city wants is for that to become a property that's held by a real estate holding company into perpetuity for just the right moment. No idea when that would ever be. So we're continuing conversations with UPMC, and yeah, come take a look.
Big opportunity.
It's a whole city block. It's a big property.
We have time for one more question. Yes.
I know one of the topics in Lancaster of late has been supplying necessary items like food and the Giant closing and reopening. I'm wondering if the other cities have issues with what they call a food desert, or is there those type of necessary items available easily for your residents?
The items are there. We have to get them. We have to get them to the people. I've developed a community ecosystem initiative where we're putting coordinators in every neighborhood so that they can go to door. Basically, they're like caseworkers for neighborhoods. So a lot of the people that we know need the most don't either have other issues so that they don't come out and get what they need. So we're trying to build relationships. We have one example, we have warehouses, or one of our nonprofits has warehouses full of furniture, yet I've walked into homes with a milk crate, a TV, and a couple of chairs, and children in that home. We've got the stuff. I mean, and I could say that about everything. We've got all the solutions to our problems, but we are not getting the solutions to the people that need the help. So I'm trying to engineer a system that connects the people to the nonprofits and other folks that have the resources.
Yeah, Harrisburg is a food desert. We have one major grocery store in the city and one only, and that is a Giant. To the extent that our corner stores have produce, it's expensive and not accessible to everyone. We are fortunate to have a strong farmers market, and we are currently looking to see if we can sort of branch that off to have a neighborhood version of that market in other parts of Harrisburg. We're also working with a couple developers to see, what is the role of the city to incentivize more of an urban market, like an urban Target or an urban Giant, which I know they're pioneering in Philadelphia and elsewhere in Pennsylvania. So I think there's a role that we may have to play in closing that financing gap to make it happen.
All right, that marks the end of our Q&A, and at this time I'd like to introduce Joel Young to the stage.
Thank you, Jeremy. Thank you very much. I'm Joel Young. I'm with Ritu Associates, and I'm also the other co-chair to the ULI PA Council, along with Marshall. And we just want to again thank you for coming out tonight, and then thank the mayors for your time today and your vision for your cities in Central PA. Thank you so much. And I also want to thank our sponsors one last time, BNF Properties, Harristown Development Corporation, High Real Estate, and Maori Construction. If you'd like to learn more about ULI, please come see myself, Marshall, or the ULI staff. And again, thank you again all for coming today and supporting ULI. Thank you so much.